Since 1954, manual bag valve ventilation has been the standard method of ventilating patients in respiratory or cardiac arrest. Yet there is little positive evidence to show that these products provide good ventilation in the majority of users' hands. Inadvertent hyperventilation, however, is now a clinically recognized and statistically significant consequence of standard bag valve ventilation. The SmartBag MO has been designed to provide guidelines-compliant ventilations by controlling the flow of air from the bag. By responding to the rescuer's squeeze and release of the SmartBag MO, the smart valve in the neck of the balloon limits the excessive flow of gas into the patient's airway. This significantly lowers the peak airway pressure generated and increases the inspiratory time, reducing the risk of inadvertent hyperventilation and its associated problems for the patient and the rescuer. The first rule of smart bagging is, if it's hard to squeeze and the smart valve moves, you're squeezing too hard. The breath should be delivered over 1 to 2 seconds with a slow, controlled squeeze. The response of the SmartBag MO is proportional to the rescuer's squeeze. The harder the squeeze, the greater the restriction to flow and the stiffer the bag becomes to squeeze. This alerts the rescuer to ease up on the squeeze, resulting in the airway pressure being kept to the minimum required to achieve adequate ventilation. The calibrated pressure actuation indicator in the neck of the bag provides a visual and audible warning as well as the tactile indication of improper technique. Be aware that, even with the hardest two-handed squeeze, at no time is the gas flow to the patient cut off by the SmartBag MO. This ensures that the patient is always ventilated correctly, regardless of the rescuer's inadvertent attempt to squeeze too hard and too fast. The second rule of smart bagging is, if it's hard to squeeze and the smart valve does not move, there is a problem with the patient's airway. When greater pressure is required to overcome a highly resistive or poorly compliant airway, the SmartBag MO will allow the rescuer to apply higher pressures. The smart valve recognizes the airway compromise and will not activate until the problem is overcome. The SmartBag MO is equipped with a manual override control to disable the action of the smart valve. Should the operator be unable to obtain an adequate mask-to-face seal, the SmartBag MO can be switched into the disabled mode. This allows high flow rates to be delivered to assist in overcoming any mask leakage. Rotating this switch does increase the risks associated with inadvertent hyperventilation. Therefore, its use should be strictly limited. During both mask-ventilated CPR and CPR with an advanced airway in place, it is recommended that the manual override control remains in the enabled mode. During advanced airway CPR, chest compressions are to be provided continuously at a rate of 100 per minute, and ventilations are to be given asynchronously at a rate of 10 per minute, which is once every 10 compressions. To ensure adequate ventilation, the operator should deliver the ventilation slowly and consistently over an inspiratory time of 1 to 1.5 seconds. This is in line with the recommendations of the 2005 Resuscitation Guidelines for Cardiopulmonary Resuscitation and Emergency Cardiac Care. By self-adjusting to both the patient and the rescuer, the SmartBag MO optimizes the ventilations, controlling the inspiratory time and keeping the airway pressure to the minimum required for adequate ventilation to occur. This results in a significantly reduced risk of inadvertent hyperventilation and significantly increases the patient's chance of survival.